Hi kids, welcome back. This is a most requested video, meaning I think like 3 people said they would be interested. And it is tips for selling men's clothing. If you want to add to your reselling business a new category, I'm here to give you 7 quick tips on how to get started. If that is interesting to you, then please keep watching. If it's not interesting to you, I think you should watch it and then reevaluate your position at the end. Either way, give me a thumbs up before you go. So, tip number 1. No, not tip number 1. So selling men's clothing could be an experiment, just to test the water, or something you are really quite sure you want to do, but my tips are going to be a way to sort of sneak up on it in a less risky fashion. If I do say anything that's confusing or new information for you that you're not familiar with about men's clothes, please leave a comment and let me know what that is. There's a lot more I could say on the subject, but I'd like to know exactly what you're interested in or what your specific questions are. And then we could do a follow-up video answering those questions. So my first tip number 1, is start with what you have. That could be men anywhere from teens to grandpas. If you have a husband or a son or a grandpa or an uncle or a brother, access to anyone who wears men's clothes, see if you can raid their closet. Offer to help them do a clean out. Most of them would just go, no. So say, well, is there anything you'd like to get rid of to make room for new stuff? There's always an approach that works. So, or here's one that if any of your men are just like squeamish about going through their clothes, ask a friend of yours who's got a man who wears clothes. Say, I am going to experiment with selling men's clothes. The next time you have a bag you're going to donate that includes some guy stuff, give me a call. I'll come and get it and go through it first, and then I will take it to the Goodwill for you, or insert the name of the thrift store of your choice. That way, they'll say, well, oh, yeah, I've got 2 bags in my car right now, or I've got 3 bags in the garage. And then you get to look at their stuff too. Everybody's always willing to let you do them a favor, like take their stuff to the thrift store to donate. So I'm going to experiment with selling men's clothes. Next time you have a bag to donate, let me know and I'll pick it up. See how easy that is? Somebody's got some used men's clothes that you don't have to pay for. That's where you should start, just like you did with your own reselling business. She might say, the girl might say, my stuff too. Check the comps for these items, though, just like you would for your women's clothes. Don't just sell everything because it was free. I like items that have a 50% sell-through rate. Some people insist on 100, but that's pretty rare. For your experiment, you might be willing to take a 10% sell-through rate because you just want to get the hang of it. Tip number 2, start with what you know. What kind of thing are you extra knowledgeable about that involves wearing clothing? Almost everything you do involves wearing clothing, and some of it might be more specialized than you realize. So athletics, and by athletics I mean sports, specific sports. Do you run? Do you lift weights? Do you do a specific kind of workout that requires a specific kind of clothes? Do you play a sport? Basketball, tennis, golf, riding bicycles. All of those things have special clothes. If you're an expert in one of those, then when you go to the thrift store and look in the men's, you'll easily be able to spot the quality athletic clothes because you're already familiar with it. I think this is a place where I'm supposed to apologize for looking down at my notes, but why would I do that? Notes are a natural part of the human condition, and we shouldn't apologize for them. Another area, are you a sports fan? Do you know a lot about professional sports? Then you'll be able to spot the jerseys or the shorts that have got the team logos on them, and which ones you think are good quality merchandise. So if you're a sports fan, that gives you an edge. Are you outdoorsy? Do you like camping and hiking or mountain biking or anything, rock climbing? Those all have special brands of clothes, and you might be familiar with many of those brands in the women's wear that you sell. Men do those same activities. So if you're outdoorsy, then use that as your niche. Maybe you love to sell career wear, or maybe you love to wear career wear. Men have careers too. And in this case, by career wear, I mean more than business casual. Suiting, tailored pieces, dress shirts. They're a slower seller, and in some ways they're more saturated. So you have to be careful. But if that's your area of expertise, then that's the one you should jump into. Denim. Do you love to sell jeans? Men wear jeans too. And many of the brands that are so-so for women are excellent for men. I'm thinking of Lucky Brand, AG, Adriana Goldschmied. I get better prices for those in men than I do in women's. And then there are some men's denim that highly collectible 90s stuff, Janko jeans, South Pole, things of that type. So if you love denim and you are an expert in it, maybe vintage Levi's is your thing. And then you already know about selling men's clothes. Fishing, cycling, motorcycling, horse culture. Maybe you live in an area where there's a lot of cowboys or people who do ride dressage. They all have special coats and breeches and special denim and pearl snap shirts, and you get the idea. Is there something in your area or something you know a lot about that gives you an in? Focus on that first. My third tip, start slow. Did you start slow when you first started your reselling business, or did you start with your own closet and then you the stuff your mom gave you, and then maybe you bought a few pieces at the thrift store? If you did that, good for you. But if you didn't work out for you to take $100 and go to 6 thrift stores in one day and really stock up? If that worked for you, then maybe you could pull it off with men's. Just buy a couple pieces in every category and see what works. But if you're going to start slow, set a small budget or a small number of items or just one category, and then, see how it feels to you, see how you like it. Just like going to the bins, just going once isn't enough. You have to do it several times before you decide if it's for you or not. Similar with men's. But I guarantee once you find that first fabulous piece that flips in 2 days and makes you a $50 profit, you're going to like it a lot better. But if you want to reduce your risk, start slow. The only benefit to starting big, in my opinion, is it speeds up the learning curve because you've got a lot more product processed a lot faster. And so you'll make mistakes faster, and that makes you learn faster. Tip number 4. Not so much a tip as a warning. Learning the dud brands is faster and easier than learning bolo brands. Just like with women's, there's so many dud brands. But with men's, there's a few that you probably don't see very often in the women's. These are the brands you can skip, and no matter what the category, in my opinion. Stafford, that's sold at pennies. Hager, Van Heusen, they're sold all over the discount malls, outlets. Pronto Uomo, sold at Men's Warehouse, but it looks so fancy and Italian. Joseph A. Bank, George, sold at Walmart. Goodfellow, sold at Target. Dockers, sold everywhere. Sonoma, sold at Kohl's. Just like with women's, if you see an interesting tag in a quality fabric, you might want to look it up, just like you would when you were first starting. But there are many great men's brands that don't do women's at all. There are many great brands that do both men's and women's, so you might be familiar with them, but you do have a lot of new brands to learn. Tip number 5, go to your favorite platform, Poshmark or eBay or Depop, wherever you plan to sell your men's stuff, and do some research. Set the filter, just choose one item, like men's shorts. Do a search. And then set the filter for like 25 to 50. I think that's a good range. 25 to 50, it's worth your time, and you're likely to find it someday. If you set it over 100, men's shorts over 100, how often is that going to turn up in your thrift store? So anyway, search on men's shorts, for example, set a price filter, maybe 25 to 50, and then click on solds. And then just scroll through and see what brands pop up. That's a good way to learn the brands that are selling for a good price and that you might find in your area. Both eBay and Poshmark, I think, let you filter by location. I know eBay does, like within 50 miles of me. So you can see what other sellers, what brands they're finding. If they can find them in your area, you can too. Tip number 6, if you like garage sales and rummage sales, they're great for cheap sourcing because no one shops the men's clothes at those. The guys, men at a garage sale might go look at the men's clothes, but they're just hoping that you've got a fishing shirt or a great hunting jacket. They're not looking at basics because they don't think about shopping for basics until they run out of pants. But they would look for specialty things, but very few people shop men's clothes, either at big community rummage sales or a church rummage sale, a school fundraiser rummage sale, or the individual garage sales. So that's a great tip if you like those kind of sales. Tip number 7, use the internet to do a little bit more research. Go to Nordstrom's website, REI's website, Huckberry's website. Huckberry is all the hot men's brands for good money right now. They own, I don't know how many different labels, or they carry how many different labels. But any retailer that you can think of that you might find those brands in your area and that are good quality. Go on the website and just see what brands they carry, see what styles they're showing right now, similar to research that you might do seasonally for your women's clothing. Google best men's clothing brands in 2023. I found lists from Men's Journal, Men's Health, Esquire Magazine, and they all had pictures and label names for different brands of men's clothing, some of which I've actually found and some of which are still on my roller list. So that those are my quick 7 tips for how to do a little research and how to just begin. Here's a bonus tip, and it might be your best one. Matt from the YouTube channel Thrift a Life, I will put a link in the description, has written, I think, 3 or 4 issues of what he calls the Menswear Manifesto. It is packed with useful information about brands, categories within those brands, how fast they sell, and for what prices. It's a pay what you want product, and I encourage you to pay a good amount because it's worth a lot. You can download the document and then look through it and see what it is, and then go back and enter an amount in to pay him. And I purchased it twice. Like I said, I think he's got 4 iterations, but there's a brand new one out. So Matt's Thrift a Life, not from Thrift a Life, his Menswear Manifesto. I put up 2 pictures here. One of them is his official picture on his website, and the other one is a picture of what he actually looks like right now. It's a searchable Google Doc, and it's very handy. I have used it to look up some really wacky brands. When I couldn't find any good comps on eBay or Poshmark, I found it in Matt's list. He was living in Southern California when he did all his research, but he used eBay for to find sales velocity and prices and so on. So many of the brands that he was familiar with, he would find in Southern California that I might not see, but it's still good to learn them. So check out Matt's channel for some of his older videos. He's in Mexico now doing different stuff, but it's a great, his manifesto is a great document. So those are my 7 tips plus the bonus Matt. I'm curious to know what other information you'd like. If you are new to selling men's clothing, haven't tried it yet, or you've just begun, if there are questions you have about it. Just as with women's wear, there are bread and butter bands. Yeah, they play 80s rock. That's what bread and butter brands. And there are quick flips for low cost. There are long tail things that you might pay a little more for. Brands that you should only get if you can get them very cheaply, but they'll still sell. I'm talking about Under Armour. Plus there are shoes and hats and ties and suspenders and belts. So if those categories are things you love, find one item, list it, and see what happens. I so appreciate you coming. I had a good time. And I will see you in the next one. Bye, kids.